Punk, it is so good to see you. You got a huge event, AEW All Out, Sunday, September 5th, happening in Illinois. Of course, that's your home state. Starts at 8 o'clock. It's a pay-per-view event. Welcome back to the sport of professional wrestling, Punk. If anyone saw it live or seen the video since, and I know millions of people have because the views on YouTube are insane, the response that you got walking into the United Center almost a week ago, Moose, grown men crying. Grown men crying that Punk has come back to wrestling. What was it like? And
you were emotional as well, Sam.
What was it like to live that experience?
First of all, I know New York kind of got slammed last night. You guys, everybody safe? Everybody good?
Yeah, we're okay.
Thanks for asking. We're hanging in.
All right. I had some friends out there that were in it, traveling home from a concert. So I heart goes out to everybody that's been affected by that. I can't put into words what it felt like walking out there, Friday night, a couple Fridays ago in the United Center, being a kid from Chicago, watching the Hawks and the Bulls play in that building, watching Bret Hart wrestle his brother Owen in a steel cage, 1994, the first ever event run at that building. It was neat. There's a lot of things going on in my head and my heart, but it was all good. It was a hell of a moment.
It was unbelievable. I mean, it was an unbelievable moment. And for the wrestling fan, they watch that entrance and over and over and over again. I guess, and I'm sure you've been asked before, why now? Why AEW? Why now? After 7 years, the hiatus, and leaving the WWE now, why now return to professional wrestling, Punk?
Well, there's a litany of reasons, right? There's a dozen good reasons to come back. But if you really look at the landscape of things, when I left, there was no AEW. A lot of people assume that I probably would have went straight there. I don't know how true that is, but watching them kind of make this big splash on the scene 2 years ago and grow into this company with TNT like firmly behind them, there's a lot of things that need to go on to be a global professional wrestling organization. You need good TV and all that, but you also need executives at that cable network that believe in the product, because otherwise, you're on a short leash. So just kind of watching for 2 years and seeing how everything developed and realizing that this place is possibly all I ever wanted in professional wrestling. So really the question is, why wouldn't I go there now? Just a lot of stories about the locker room being great, keeping secrets when they need to keep secrets, about a family illness. We lost Brody Lee last December. That was a big one for me. There's a lot of, gossipy news. Everybody wants to know how the sausage is made, right? It's no different than NBA, NFL, whatever. The behind the scenes stuff is the salacious stuff that the hardcore fans want to see. And they sat on this story of this guy, getting sick, being in the hospital. And because of his wife said, guys, can we just keep this under wraps? They kept it under wraps. And I thought that was super commendable and it was honorable. And that's something that it was really near and dear to me because Brody was my friend, and I see that and I'm like, man, that's there's something to that. That's a real family.
CM Punk is joining us. Punk, you said that, you think that you can be not just obviously a great wrestler still in their prime, but you can almost be a mentor to some of the younger talent that's at AEW. What kind of advice do you want to give them?
I don't want to be a guy that thinks I know everything because I don't. Part of this experience for me is continuing to learn. In 2013, I might have thought I knew everything. That was a great time for me to leave. And now I'm just like, man, this is great. I got to share a ring with Sting last night. I never thought something like that would happen. And just talking to him, I'm learning still, right? I'm not going to tell the young guys that I know everything. Hey, listen to me, do it this way. Because I think that's the beauty of it. There's no right way. It's like in Major League Baseball. There's a million different hitting coaches. They're going to tell batters a million different things, work on this, whatever. If somebody wants my advice, I'll happily give it to them. Somebody, looks at me like I'm a mentor. Maybe I have a wealth of experience that I can help these guys with, I think, but I'm in no way, shape, or form there to, fix anybody's anything. I'm there to help if somebody wants it.
I'm curious, when you first went to WWE, did you have someone that you could lean on in the locker room, like at least how you're making yourself available to the younger talent?
There were a few guys, but it was few and far between. I know the place has changed, but when I showed up in that locker room for the first time in 2006, it was a shark tank, and the culture there is very much they would like to pit guys against each other.
Right.
You want to try to steal this guy's spot or take what this guy has. And I'm a student of professional wrestling and a fan of professional wrestling. And I look at history throughout professional wrestling, and there were a lot of great territories where they had multiple top guys. Guys could rotate in and out. WWE seemed to be focused on the one guy, and they wanted everybody else to fight over, banana peels to try to be that one guy. There were a few guys that helped me out in the locker room. I'd say the majority of the quote unquote old timers who really helped me was prior to WWE. I mean, even Eddie Guerrero was a guy who helped me out. Harley Race, Terry Funk, Dusty Rhodes, Tracy Smothers. So all these guys, they'd been there, done that. So they were out of that system, and they loved helping the young kids. I felt like there was a lot of people in the WWE system that maybe didn't want to help as much as they could have or should have because they were busy protecting their spot.
Punk, I want to ask you, you circle back to, the decision to return, the decision why it worked, why AEW works for you. Talk about how big does the relationship with Tony Khan play into the fact of you returning that night in Chicago?
I've gotten to know Tony. We've been talking for about 2 years about this, and to compare and contrast him to other bosses I've had in professional wrestling, he's just more approachable. And I think it boils down to him being a fan, which you'll hear often is a negative. Oh, he's too much of a fan. And man, that's just crazy. Who do you want running your organization? Somebody who hates wrestling or somebody who loves wrestling? He's very receptive. He's open to ideas. He has great ideas himself. And it's more of a collaboration than anything. He listens to the fans. And I think recognizing that was also a big part of the decision that, this is the place I need to be.
Do you think, and it didn't end well with the WWE. We all know that, right? And you even referenced the fact that if you stuck there, you felt like you would have died, right? That they weren't taking care of you, right? Do you feel completely different here with the AEW about how the wrestler, the athlete is handled, taken care of, how you are heard and not kind of pushed to the wayside?
Yeah, and I think what helps is the schedule too, right? The pandemic has put an end to any kind of touring. Nobody's going to be doing house shows anymore, and really, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, I'd be wrestling, and I never got any time, zero time off, the entire time I was there. And there was a point where I was begging for time off, and here I don't think that's ever going to happen. I feel like if I told Tony, he's already asked me. He asked me,
do you want a day off? What?
Dude, we were out to dinner the one night after First Dance at United Center, and he goes, you guys plan on? He's talking about me and my wife. He's like, you guys plan on going on vacation anytime soon? You just let me know if you need time off. And I was like, I just got here, dude. It's appreciated. You know what I mean? To know that. It's easy instead of saying, hey, I really need time off, and them going, well, we really need you. How bad do you need me?
Yeah.
Do you need me healthy, or do you need me, dead in a hotel room?
Punk, did you ever think that there was a time when you couldn't be happy and also be a professional wrestler because of that?
Oh, sure. 100%. This isn't harp on where I used to work, but when I do media and stuff like that, it comes up. People are going to ask me the questions about it. And I know that there are people out there who roll their eyes and say, oh, he's being dramatic when he says he would have died. Well, listen, man, you don't know my life. You don't know about the staph infection and the concussions and the pressure to go out there. I put a lot of that on myself. When I say that would have happened, it's because I would not have stopped. I would not have taken myself out of that bad situation until I did. I had to break that cycle because nobody in a position of power there would have stepped in. They just want you to make the town. They just want you to show up because your face is on the poster or whatever. Everything's just different now. You know, I realize that I can be happy and I can be a pro wrestler and I can still do movies, television, MMA commentary, like all these things, and be a great husband, which is like the number one thing that I'm trying to do.
Wow, that's great. CM Punk is joining us, of course, AEW All Out, Sunday, September 5th. It starts at 8 p.m. Eastern, the pre-show at 7. It's on pay-per-view. Now, you also I love that you want to be a great husband and want to be a great, wrestler. All of that stuff is awesome. But you are a competitor. I mean, when you and WWE parted ways, you didn't go off and travel the world. You went in the cage to become a UFC fighter. Like, you have a competitive spirit in you. I think that would be impossible to extinguish. Is there part of you that wants to feels competitive with WWE, that wants to beat them at something? And what would that look like?
Yeah, I think you'd be straight up telling a big old lie if you said that you didn't want to, beat them in whatever metrics they deem as successful. But I don't. If you ask them, they'll say that AEW is not their competition, which is great. I think everybody sees through that. If you ask us, I'll say, yeah, absolutely, they're our competition. However, we're focused on what we're doing. We're focused on the people in the building who have paid to see AEW, and we're not so much worried about everything else. I know the TNT executives love ratings. That's what their business, is driven by. I'm focused on the fans, and I think that's how you grow your business. I think that's how you will eventually grow AEW. If you're talking about head-to-head competition with WWE, they have a 30-plus year head start. AEW's been around for 2 years. I like what we've been doing, and it's fun again for me. So I'm not trying to bankrupt anybody, put anybody out of business.
But it's competition.
It 100% is. Absolutely. It 100% is. If you say it's not, then I don't know, you're fooling yourself, or you want to pretend like, somebody doesn't exist or whatever. And I think you're shooting yourself in the foot.
How have you, you've gone through a lot the last 7 years, right? You mentioned you were talking to Tony for 2 years before eventually making the return here to the, to professional wrestling and AEW. Punk, how have you changed? You've done a lot, you've gone through a lot, right? But the fan that knows CM Punk, the wrestling fan that knows CM Punk, how have you evolved and changed the last 7 years?
7 years is a long time. I think I've learned from a lot of mistakes that I have made. Taken myself out of a bad situation that, you'll hear stories about how I wasn't fun to work with or whatever. But again, the environment I was in was designed to be that way, where you had to protect your spot and always have your guard up and all that. And it really just kind of squeezed the joy out of my entire life, So I'm different now that I will prioritize my dog. I will prioritize my wife, because for so long it was just wrestling, and it's easy to do. It's easier to do when you're not married and you don't have kids. And now I think wrestling, while it can be a priority, it doesn't have to be the number one priority, but it can still be something I devote 100% of my energy to, but it's just not 24/7. And I think that will change a lot for me about, being healthy and happy.
You mentioned, happy wife, happy life. Any guy that's married knows that, right? Could you see your wife returning and joining the AEW?
The great AJ Lee.
I would love to see it. I get asked that question every single time I do an interview, and I love it. I absolutely.
Do you think she wants to do it?
I don't. It's because she's a teeny tiny person and she's got a bad neck. She wrestled. I think the shelf life for females in wrestling, wrestling a full schedule is a lot shorter. It's a lot smaller than men. And she, I think, is so focused on what she's doing now, writing screenplays. She's working on a million different projects, being pulled in so many different directions. I think she would probably be maybe receptive to the idea of coming back. But she just can't, it's like that can't even enter her vocabulary right now, because she's so focused on, the movie scripts and TV adaptations of her book that she's working on.
Yeah, well, please send her our best. What about Daniel Bryan? Is that just is this a foregone conclusion? Hello? Does the silence say it all?
Listen, the 7 years I was gone, if you told me who's the one guy that could get you back to wrestling, you just have one match with him, it would be him. I don't know if that answers your question or not.
It does.
But the guy was in the WrestleMania main event. I don't know 6 months ago. You know what I mean? So that would be a huge acquisition. And I think he could do just like me. I think he could do everything he wants to do. And for a guy like me and him, pro wrestling's art. This is our art, right? Other people paint with brushes. This is our art. We're very much in the footsteps of a Bret Hart. So if he does show up, I'm excited to see what he does. If he doesn't, I'm excited to see what he does elsewhere.
Punk, last one for me. That night in Chicago, you said, Maggie mentioned guys and wrestling fans in attendance were crying. You were crying. It's one of the great return reactions by a live audience in the history of wrestling. How does that hit you, Punk, after being away for so long, all the rumors for a couple years to return, but to get that kind of love when you do return?
I mean, I think my reaction and the look on my face says it all. When I come out there, it's overwhelming. It really is. Still haven't been able to really process it all. Selling out the United Center on a rumor, an NBA arena. They're hanging from the rafters. It says a lot, and it's humbling, but it also super keeps me grounded in knowing that, man, these people waited 7 years for you. So, now it's time to give them exactly
now
what
it's
they've
go
been
time
for. That exactly 100%. That's why they got some ice cream bars on their way out.
Ice cream for everyone you bought.
They're passionate fans. You know what I mean? And they love you if you love them. And if you give them everything you have, they will reciprocate. And that just proved it that Friday night. It meant the world to me so much. I think that's easily the top moment of my career. And now I just have to stay at that level and try to beat that. That's a hell of a bar to set.
No pressure. If anyone can do it, it's you. CM Punk and Darby Allin going at it. AEW All Out. The date, Sunday, September 5th. What time? 8 p.m. Eastern. The pre-show starts at 7. You can find it on pay-per-view.
Awesome.
Punk, welcome back.
Good
Couldn't
luck.
be happier for you. Knock 'em dead, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you.
I think we lost him.
The one and only.
Yeah, there we have it.
Oh,
You broke up for 1 second there, but I know I was like, oh man, we made it the whole interview.
There we go.
This thing's
Good luck.
freezing.
Good luck Sunday night.
Thanks,
Good luck.
guys.
wishing you all the
Great
best.
talking to you.
You
And
as
we'll
well.
talk to you
Stay
again
safe.
soon. Thank you so much. And hopefully see you in New York a little bit
Yeah.
later on in September.